Minister thereby, please.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I too welcome this debate. For me, it's one of the most important issues that we must address. For too long, it's been the case that people from certain backgrounds do not have the same level of educational attainment than others. Over the years, there have been many reasons for this, but it's welcomed the First Minister's remark that a child born today in one of our deprived communities will, by the time he or she leaves school, have the same chance of going to university as a child born in our more affluent communities. Surely this is something we can all agree on, Presiding Officer. This is an investment in the future of Scotland's children, and one that can provide a better future for many of our young people. The Scottish Government has achieved much during its time in government, but we must recognise that attainment is an important area that we must all seek to improve. The First Minister and the Cabinet Secretary mentioned in their speech as well announced that the Scottish Attainment Challenge at school leavers from our most deprived 20% of areas currently do only half as well as school leavers from wealthier areas. And I agree with Nicola Sturgeon when she said too many children still have their life chances influenced by where they live than by how talented they are or how hard they work. This can be seen in my own constituency, where there is an east-west divide, a position where one end of Paisley is the wealthier area and the other part of the area is one of the most deprived areas in Scotland, and dealing with the many challenges that this entails. But we must continue to strive to ensure that our children do not become a societal victim because of the community they are a part of. The Education Committee found during the post-16 Reform Bill that University of the West of Scotland is one of the only universities who have managed to ensure that 20% of their pupils come from the lowest wage backgrounds in studying at their institution. This is excellent, but it also gives them many ongoing challenges. It ensures that young people may still need to deal with the difficulties that other students do not have. It may be not in year one that they have the difficulty, it may be in year 2 or 3 that may lead to a situation where a young person drops out. But UWS are working with other educational institutions and attainment in the west of Scotland on Focus West. Focus West works in 37 secondary schools located in 11 local authority areas, all of which have progression rate higher of 22% or less. Presiding Officer, the West of Scotland is home to 41% of Scotland's population and has nearly 70% of Scotland's most deprived areas. Since the inception of Focus West in 2008, they have worked with nearly 22,000 pupils and has contributed to an average increase in progression to higher education across its core schools. So, Presiding Officer, there is much good work going across our nation, but we must aspire to do much more. That is why I welcome the Scottish Government's new Scottish Attainment Challenge that will be backed by an Attainment Scotland fund of more than £100 million over a 4-year period to help pupils from our most disadvantaged communities. The Scottish Attainment Challenge, which will draw on the experience of the London Challenge, as has been mentioned earlier, will be help transform school performance in the City of London, and other international experiences will be taken on board. And incidentally, Presiding Officer, I recently attended UCU's National Conference in London, and it was heartening to hear so many English-based educationalists using Scotland as a beacon of hope and a way forward for education in the rest of the UK because of the key Scottish Government policies like free education, curriculum for excellence, getting it right for every child, early years framework and opportunities for all. They used all of them as examples of best practice and the way forward. But we are all aware of the cost of education from Westminster for the rest of the UK. Research from Spice recently found that since fees rose to £9,000 3 years ago, they have cost students in the rest of the United Kingdom £14 billion. £14 billion, and currently Scottish students studying at Scottish University saved £1 billion over the same number of years. Not only that, but the ongoing austerity plans of Westminster are causing despair throughout Scotland and the rest of the UK. While the Scottish Government are making progress in reducing the attainment gap, they can only go so far in mitigating the damage caused by Westminster policies. An additional 100,000 of Scotland's children will be living in poverty by 2020 because of UK welfare reforms. And this is before the next round of cuts due in 2017 and 18. It is unacceptable, Presiding Officer, that due to the decisions of the UK Government, children and families in Scotland are suffering. Even with the ongoing problems created by Westminster, the Scottish Government is challenging itself to achieve better attainment levels. The fund will be targeted initially at schools with the biggest concentration of households in deprived areas, targeting areas with additional teachers, materials for classrooms, resource to develop new out-of-school activities. It will focus on improving literacy, numeracy, health and well-being in primary schools with clear objectives to give all primary school age pupils, regardless of background, the best possible start in life. All parts of Scotland will not need the same uniformed ideas, and this is addressed with the bespoke improvement plan. It is important, being appropriate to local circumstances, and will be agreed for each school or cluster of schools. This will include an agreement to gather in a proportionate way the data that will be required to measure the impact of the interventions supported, ensuring that we are reaching the right people at the right time. This year's initial funding of £20 million announced by the Deputy First Minister during the budget. We already know that there are many great things happening in our schools, but by providing greater access to funding, expertise and resource, schools will have more opportunity to offer the creative and innovative teaching that helps all our young people succeed. In closing, Presiding Officer, I would like to say it was interesting to read Save the Children said about the fund. We welcome the £100 million commitment to the Scottish Attainment Fund over the first £20 million tranche in 2015-16. The focus on the poorest children within these new commitments is particularly important. For me, Presiding Officer, that is the most important part of this issue, and surely that is something we can all agree on.
Thank you very much.